Hey everybody, movie reviewer next door here, and I'm back with another review. This time I saw Romeo is Bleeding. This is a shit. Gotta get back. This is a crime thriller noir film from 1993, directed by Romeo, and it stars Gary Oldman, Lena Olin, Annabella Sciorra, and Juliette Lewis. In this film, a corrupt cop gets in over his head when he tries to assassinate a beautiful Russian hitwoman. So, what did I think of Romeo is Bleeding? Well, this is one film I've wanted to see for a bit. I heard it was weird. I heard performances were great. I heard it was very moody, and I got pretty much all of that. I really enjoyed this film, even if the first half had me a little bit suspicious that this was going to be one of those noir movies where nothing really happened until like the last 5 minutes, like a lot of noir movies have, because I find a lot of them pretty boring. But this one I wasn't bored, even if the first half was a bit slowish. But let me get to the cast. Gary Oldman plays Jack Grimaldi, a corrupt cop who's working with these mob people, and he's given the assignment of take out this Russian hitwoman, and basically they won't kill his wife. Gary Oldman, always known for being a bit over the top, and not in a bad way. I really like a lot of his performances. Leon the Professional, him as the villain, I think he's stellar in that. He's terrifying. Air Force One, he's really good. There are many films, and I think he keeps that up here. He's a pretty interesting character, not all black and white, like I like. Lena Olin plays Mona Demarkov. She is the Russian hitwoman. I think she really works in this type of role. I haven't seen her in a ton. The last thing I saw her in was Awake with Hayden Christensen, Jessica Biel, Terrence Howard, and I think she was great there. I do think she is also she's pretty stellar here, and she somehow outacts Gary Oldman, and really just plays a very interesting, provocative, like kind of like femme fatale character that's not like annoying, and you buy it. She looks terrifying. She's terrifying and sexy all at the same time. Annabella Sciorra plays Natalie Grimaldi, who is Jack's wife. I think she did a pretty decent enough job. I haven't seen her in a lot. I know she's in Hand That Rocks the Cradle, Reversal of Fortune, The Funeral, Copland, What Dreams May Come. She's in a lot of films. But I do think she did a good job here. Juliette Lewis plays Sherry. She's kind of a like fling that Gary Oldman's character was having, which part of the crooked cop thing is that he sleeps around a bit, I guess, or is sleeping with a woman other than his wife, but he still loves his wife. Doesn't mean he's any less of a prick for it, but he still does love his wife. I think she was decent enough. I like Juliette Lewis, but I tend to like her more when she's in a role like Natural Born Killers or even smaller parts like in, well, California is another one. Almost, I don't hear really anybody talk about California nowadays, and I really liked that whenever I first saw it. But yeah, she's fine here. But the main thing I can say about this film is that it goes into some really weird directions, especially in the second half. Because the main story of this is kind of something, again, something that's not wholly original. Crooked cop working for the mob has to take out someone, in this case a female assassin, and she keeps slipping through his fingertips. And again, you've seen this type of film before, but what this film does differently, first off, you have two really standout performances from Gary Oldman and Lena Olin. You have Gary Oldman as this crazy cop, this crazy like in over his head a cop that's working for the mob and whatever, playing both sides. And you have Lena, Lena Olin playing a very, I say over the top, but she's not over the top all the time. She knows when to do it. Especially a scene where she tries to use piano wire to kill our main character. The way she laughs during it just comes off as really unhinged, and I really did like that. I liked. I I just loved. I love when femme fatales use sex as a weapon in that way. Like, say, Xenia Onatopp in Goldeneye. She uses her body as a weapon. She literally seduces men using her body and kills them by choking them out with her legs. And I know there are some people that might go back to Goldeneye and be like, oh, that's not her true feminist character. Oh, she's sexual or whatever. I thought feminists were all about sexual liberation, but whatever. But to be honest, that's probably one of the better ways you can do it. She doesn't feel, they didn't feel the need to hire someone who was ugly just to be like, oh, all women can relate, which to be honest is kind of a shit thing to do, is be like, oh, it's more relatable because they're ugly. Like, why would you do that? But in that way, she is using the thing that many people would see as a weakness, her good looks and her sexuality. She's using it to her advantage to get what she wants. It's a it's a trope as old as time, femme fatales. And I think that's kind of what you have here, because she does kind of similar things. There's one point where she tries to like seduce him so that she can grab his gun while literally his pants are down. There's times where like he's like, oh, maybe I'm in the clear, and she uses his unawareness against him. And I like that. It makes for an interesting villain that's actually threatening. Do you know how hard it is to make a female threaten that's actually threatening? Like, there are some movies I can think of off the top of my head that do it. Last Crusade, Allison Duty as Elsa. You've got frickin' Murphy's Law with Carrie Snodgrass, I think. I'll have to look that up. Yeah, Carrie Snodgrass. Yeah, she was terrifying in that. And here, I think you have a very well done villain. Lena Olin sells it. She's not, like, again, people might say like, oh, she's too sexual or whatever. She's just there to be hot, which, to be honest, is really, like, why would I hear people say this all the time? They're like, oh, a female being sexual, like male gaze and all that. I'm pretty sure the main reason she's sexual in this movie, and a lot of women are sexual in other movies like this, is to get the upper hand on the man. So if anything, it's the exact opposite you're saying. So there's nothing wrong with enjoying nudity. Like, but whatever. The other thing I like about this film, it subverted my expectations. Certain characters died that I didn't expect to die. Certain things happened at the end where I was like, okay, that's fucking satisfying, which a lot of noir movies tend to not do. They tend to be like, oh, we'll leave it up to your imagination. That's what a lot of artsy shit does. And yeah, I'm glad that this film did that, because I like not knowing exactly what's going to happen. I like going into movies where I'm like, okay, maybe something will happen that I wasn't expecting. I like that. I wish more movies surprise me like that, but it doesn't seem to happen that often. But another thing, this film is surprisingly violent. It's not filled with a bunch of like action scenes or anything. There aren't any shootouts at all. Pretty much all of the death that happens on screen happens, like, people get shot at certain times, but what I would consider a shootout is when there's more than one person shooting at each other, not just people getting shot at. I don't consider that personally a shootout, because then you could say like Schindler's List is an action movie because there's shootouts. If you count Jewish people getting peppered by bullets, and I'm not laughing at that. I'm just like trying to clarify what I mean by shootouts. There are no shootouts in this film. There are characters that get shot, and it is surprisingly very violent. There's quite a few scenes where I was like, "Damn, that's way more violent than I was expecting." Especially the scenes between Lena Olin and Gary Oldman. Very, very surprising that I know it's an R-rated movie. I know it's back in the 90s, but it was more violent than I was expecting for sure. Um, and again, I know I've said it multiple times. Gary Oldman and Lena Olin are fucking great in this. They are. I don't think really anybody can disagree with that. There are many emotional scenes for Gary Oldman, and I think he pulls them off very well. And Lena Olin gets to be an unhinged bad guy, which didn't know I needed it in my life, but I'm glad I did. I also like the kind of Amazon quality that she has. She has like Amazonian, like she's pretty tall. She's got a very distinct figure. Like she's definitely fit. I'm not saying she's not. She's got a distinct figure though, and it's very mesmerizing in a lot of these sexual scenes. And again, there's things about the characters that I didn't see coming. Again, something I like to see in these types of movies. But as for cons, specifically the first half of the movie, more could have happened. I do think that a lot of movies like this tend to put all of the exciting stuff in the second half. Like, there are a couple things that happen in the first half, but I kind of wish the first half was as crazy as the second half, or at least building up to the craziness of the second half. Because, if I'm being honest, what happens in the second half of the movie kind of comes out of nowhere. It's not really set up that well. I guess in that way it was surprising, but I do wish that a lot of these movies didn't do that. But I also wouldn't want this movie to have too much crazy stuff in the first half that the stuff in the second half doesn't hit. But for sure, definitely more could have happened. I'm not saying shootout specifically, but a few more crazy plot points or insane scenes. Definitely more Lena Olin. She kind of become like in the first half of the movie, she's in it like twice, I guess. Like she's in like two scenes, I think, and then in the second half of the movie, she becomes true secondary character. Like I'm guessing they were trying to add to the mystery of her before she became like 100% the bad guy, because I guess you're supposed to think Roy Scheider is supposed to be the villain, which I guess I forgot to mention that. Roy Scheider is in this film too. He's a glorified cameo though. He shows up in one kind of big dialogue scene and then later in one scene, so he's not really in the movie that much. But what else? Oh yeah, another thing I really liked, the score by Mark Isham. I don't know a lot. I can't think of a lot of the stuff he's done like off the top of my head. Apparently he did Judas and the Black Messiah, Point Break, Accountant, Blade. I like the soundtrack to Blade. Um Archangel, the Jodie Foster episode of Black Mirror. Um but yeah, he does really great work. The Net as well. Um a very like kind of mixture of noir tones and kind of a 90s feel in ways. This is neo-noir. It's not trying to be like 100% like 40s and 50s film noir, but it's putting like a new spin on it, and I actually did like that. I like when film noir is done right, where it feels like there's actual progression to the plot, not like Shaft, where literally like nothing happens the entire movie until the very end. Because I know a lot of people will probably get on my ass for saying Shaft was the worst of the series. I it's not even that it's well, I didn't like it. I didn't like Shaft. I can see the things that people like about it, but I don't like a lot of the dialogue. I don't think it's very well written. It's very in your face, like how movies about racism nowadays are very in your face. Um, and literally nothing happened until the end of the movie. But with this, I did feel like there was somewhat of a of a decent progression to the plot and how stuff ends, which is always nice. Um, but yeah, I legitimately really enjoyed this film. I didn't exactly know what to expect. I just knew that it was supposedly violent. Gary Oldman and Lena Olin were good, which they were more than good. They were fucking great. Um, and yeah, just an overall really well done mystery thriller. But yeah, that's my review of uh, Romeo's Bleeding. If you've seen the film, let me know what your thoughts are in the comments down below. If you have any recommendations, put them down there as well. And movie reviewer next door, out.